Hi, I'm Coach John, and welcome to the first coaching video of my series on how to kill the giants. These are your fear monsters. They're standing in your way of success. And in this series, the giants we're going to address are the most common enemies that most of us have to do battle with. Now keep in mind that just because you may not be dealing with all the giants that we're going to cover at some point in your life, especially if you're about to step out in faith to create something special, they will undoubtedly come into your life to try and discourage and destroy your destiny. Also, you may be dealing with a certain giant that we aren't going to cover. In that case, I suggest you schedule a free one-on-one session with me so we can put our heads together and come up with a plan to kill it. Deal? Okay, so let's dive into the battle plan for killing the first giant. This giant you know all too well. In fact, this giant has appeared from your earliest school years to probably even today at some point. This giant raises his sword to cut down every idea and intention you have that excites you. And there's almost never a time that he doesn't show up. The giant I'm talking about is the fear of rejection. And the key to this fear is our inherent desire for acceptance. Now, being accepted by others, loved, cared for, and appreciated is an inherent desire in all humans. And this comes right after food, clothing, shelter, and security in our hierarchy of needs. And the reality is that most of us have the basic needs met, and therefore we wrestle with this one more consistently than any of the others. Now, while I was doing research, I originally addressed this giant as the fear of failure, but further thought and meditation, well, I realized that most people don't suffer from fear of failure. In fact, the fear of failure isn't even a giant, and if you've been naming the fear of failure as one of your giants, you might have been targeting the wrong enemy. So let me explain. You see, if you truly feared failure, you would have major emotional disturbances every time you didn't win or if you weren't successful at something. And the statistics show us that almost everything most of us do, we perform right at the middle level between good and terrible. So, if, when we do most things, we aren't the best at it, we wouldn't even try if the fear of failure truly was your giant. That make sense? Now, the fear of rejection, that is an ugly and big giant. The fear of rejection will keep you from going up and asking out the woman or the man that you like. It'll keep you from asking for a raise. It'll keep you from speaking up against something you feel strongly about. And it'll keep you from doing the things in your business that would actually lead to great success. Great success, income, and impact. So let me give you a real-life example. A friend of mine who's in the commercial insurance sales business has a lofty goal of being recognized as the top agent in his area. And after helping him figure out how many businesses he has to contact, he was set. He's excited to do whatever it takes to meet his goal. And at first, the thought and plan of walking into a couple hundred businesses a week and pitching his unique proposition sounded great. He was even excited for the challenge. That is, until he was parked right outside the first business of the day. And this friend of mine, he shared that as soon as he was sitting in his car right outside of the business he planned to visit, this overwhelming fear of being rejected came over him. And instead of just walking in and asking for the owner, he sat in his car and he thought of every reason the business wouldn't need his services and why they wouldn't even be interested in talking to him to learn more. He even went through every imaginary scenario of the receptionist and the gatekeepers rolling their eyes when they saw him and then the owner telling him not to waste their time. And so instead of overcoming his fear of rejection and sticking to the plan, he would drive off and go to the next one, thinking he'd have more confidence there. And he had a lot more confidence during the car drive there. But again, until he was right in front of the business. And then the whole mental battle with this giant would start over again. Now, this is just one example, but I'm willing to bet you've encountered similar scenarios in your own head. How often are you presented with an amazing opportunity that you know would improve your business and life, and then after thinking about it, you end up talking yourself out of it? Now, if you explore deep within yourself at what actually keeps you from stepping out and taking action on the things that you want or the things that you know would position you for success, then you would quickly see that the fear of rejection giant, this giant, has been stepping on your head. But now it's time to stand up, take up your own weapon, and kill it. Are you ready? There are 3 steps to killing the fear of rejection giant. Before we dive into the first step, I need to address something with you, and that is that even after you kill this giant, it has the ability to be born again and grow up into a worse enemy if you give it any space in your life. So you've got to stay on this one all the time. It will grow back. In other words, after you kill this giant, you're going to have to keep it from resurrecting by following the next 3 steps and doing them often. Now, these next 3 steps need to be done as a habitual, weekly practice, and not just when you feel like you need it. What makes this giant killing weapon so effective is consistency and practice. And I probably don't have to tell you that whatever you don't practice means you're going to get worse, even after a short period of time. So commit to making a habit of these 3 steps so you never have to lose to the fear of rejection giant again. It's brutal. So here they are. Step number 1 is you have to feel the pain of what is lost. You see, when we're about to lose the battle to the fear of rejection giant, it's because the pain of potential rejection, we think it's greater than the pain of what's actually at stake. So in the moment, it seems like it's safer not to ask the girl or the guy out. It seems safer not to ask for more money and stay in your lane. It seems safer not to ask your spouse for what you need, and it seems safer not to make yourself uncomfortable, even though the payoff might be huge. But this is a lie. This is a false perception. Think about what you're really fearing. If you step out of your comfort zone and make yourself vulnerable and you do get rejected, are you going to die? Is one of your limbs going to fall off? Is the entire world going to shame you? No. You see, we often make these small and insignificant fears so big that they cripple us. But in reality, nothing is lost except maybe a temporary blow to our egos and our feelings. Temporary. So you need to add up the sum of what's at stake if you do stay in your comfort zone and allow this giant to beat you. First of all, you're not going to get what you truly want. That might be a major career shift, improving your business, finding love, or standing up for what's right. And I guarantee you that the negative ripple effect from succumbing to your lack of confidence will be far more destructive than anything that rejection could ever do to you. Did you know that most people fail because they quit? And did you know that most people that reach the highest levels of success only do so because they just keep going past the point of fear, past the point of rejection and boredom and stagnation and poor results? They keep grinding. I think this is an amazing reality and opportunity for you if you have the guts to just keep going. Get after it. You know, I once heard something really cool about video games that I often use when I feel the fear of rejection giant starting to rise up. And that's that life should be lived like a video game. You know, even if your character dies, you have another life to try the same level again. And if that one dies, you get another, and you get to try again and again and again. And if you run out of lives, you simply start the game over with all the memory and the experience so that you can do better. And if you end up figuring out that you don't like that game, you simply change it out for a better one. Now imagine how different your life would be if you took this approach. So for step number 1 today, make a list of everything you've let the fear of rejection giant take away from you. Understand the pain, and underneath each of those items, write out how not having done those things has affected your life and how it will continue to affect your life if you don't kill this giant. And get used to thinking about these pains of what you're losing so that you can arm yourself against him. The fear of rejection giant hates boldness. So be bold and be courageous. Step number 2 is to practice. But it's got to be practice by design. You need to allocate time or it won't happen. You're going to have to force yourself to practice. And you do that by thinking about how you're losing all those different pains and how practice will help you overcome your fear of rejection. You know, I love basketball, and one of the greatest times to have been a Lakers fan living in Southern California was when Kobe and Shaq were winning championships. Well, I'm sure you know who Shaq is. He was so big and strong and dominant, like a giant, that the defense couldn't stop him from scoring. He would sit under the rim, his teammates would pass him the ball, he'd jump up and score. So after a few years of Shaq being dominant, the other teams in the league, they began to develop a strategy to keep him from doing what he does best and force him into his weakest area, and that was shooting free throws. And as good as Shaq was inside the paint, as they call it, when it came to making free throws, oh my God, he was horrendous. I mean, his percentage of making free throws was amongst the worst in the league, might have been the bottom. So a well-known defense against him was developed. It was called Hack-a-Shaq, and opponents would take turns fouling him before he had a chance to score. And Shaq would have to go to the free throw line, and he would predictably only make one or zero of the 2 free throws. Can you imagine the advantage that was taken away? His scoring was reduced by 50%. Now, I tell you this story because after a year of being nullified, Shaq had to force himself to practice doing what he was horrendous at, and that was shooting free throws. And he would practice daily, throwing 100 or more free throws just by himself, shot after shot after shot, boring, mundane practice. But even at the level he was at, he forced himself to practice his deficiency. And you know what he did? He improved. So much so that opponents had to find another strategy to fend against his dominance. So just like Shaq, you need to place yourself in situations to have forcible practice. And the best forcible practice comes where the stakes are low. For example, If you want to be able to walk into a certain business and pitch your services, but you're feeling scared to do so, you got to practice by going to another business that you don't really care much about whether you get their business or not. Or if you fear rejection in dating, practice randomly making conversation with strangers and begin to develop your confidence. You see, the only way you could kill the fear of rejection giant is by not letting him stop you. And the more practice you can get before the real test, the more you won't fear rejection. So for step number 2, today, write out how you're going to force yourself to practice getting better. Write that out underneath the items that you listed in step number 1. And this is the most important part. You must actually go out and do the practice. If you don't practice, it's not going to work. Don't just say you're going to do it and lose steam for it. Allocate time on your schedule per practice. If you don't give it some time, something else comes steal it. You'll never get it done. Masters practice when they don't feel like it. And I know there's a master inside you. And the last step, step 3, is to get accountability. Accountability is the secret key to crushing life. When you have someone who will keep you accountable doing the things that you don't want to do, or maybe the ones that you just have trouble getting yourself to follow through with, you supercharge your life. I mean, just imagine for a second what a good accountability mentor would do for you, maybe in your health and fitness, or your business marketing efforts, or your relationships, or your self-improvement. You see, the sad reality is that we are all horrible at keeping ourselves accountable because we make excuses. We fail to follow through with the things that we like, let alone the things we don't like. And even worse, we fail to follow through with doing the things that are good for us and will make us successful. So find a great accountability mentor who will actually remind you and ask you on a frequent basis how you're doing on your goals. But be warned, friends don't always fit into this role because they are biased. The very best accountability mentors come from someone in which you actually invest in so that you feel the pain of loss if you don't follow through. You do that with a coach or a trainer. And although they may seem expensive at first, how valuable and worth it is it to find out your coach helped you in doing all the things you know that would take your life to a whole other level. So there you go. 3 steps guaranteed to help you kill the fear of rejection giant in your life. Start today with these strategies and take it serious. Begin to make stepping out of your comfort zone your favorite hobby, and you're going to see a tremendous shift in your business and your life. So thanks for spending this coaching session with me, and I look forward to killing the next giant in next week's session. I'm excited for the growth and development that awaits you over the next few weeks as we journey together through this coaching series. And I hope now that you're beginning to feel hopeful and excited. So be on the lookout next week for the next coaching video where we kill the second giant. Now before you leave, please scroll down and leave a comment. Let me know that you were here and share your thoughts on this new series. When you make the right moves, you win the game. Killing your giants forever is the right move. Have a great day and expect greatness. Cheers to your success.